Hello, today I'm going to be talking about media trailblazer Paulo Freire. Paulo Freire's work was heavily intertwined with his personal life and upbringing, so I'll briefly be talking about his life and his background. So, he was born in Brazil on September 19th, 1921, and during the time of his birth, his family enjoyed a middle class life. However, once the Great Depression takes hold of Brazil in the 1930s, Freire and his family suffer from poverty and hunger. Eventually, though, his family is able to stabilize financially and send him to university in 1943. From there, he has a very long and successful academic career where he contributes works that impact the way scholars and instructors approach pedagogy. One of those works is Pedagogy of the Oppressed, published in 1968. This revolutionized the way education and instruction were executed in schools. Freire aimed to awake the students' cultural consciousness and awareness by encouraging them to express themselves freely. In Pedagogy of the Oppressed, he presents the term banking education. This reveals an unbalanced power dynamic that begins in the classroom and essentially questions how society is going to progress if instructors are devoted to traditional pedagogy ideologies that ingrains the idea to the student that instructors know everything and the student knows nothing. Freire opposed this traditional ideology and instead presented the classroom as a space where everyone is a teacher and a student. And he also believed that by oppressing the student's voice, you are sustaining the culture of silence. And when you are sustaining the culture of silence, there is no societal progression. And then he questioned, to whom is it beneficial that society doesn't progress? And those are the people that are already in power, right? So once the classroom becomes an equal space for learning and cultivating voices, the culture of silence is defeated. So, going off of the idea of the classroom, in our modern world, the classroom presents itself in many forms, such as news outlets, newspapers, journals, news articles, websites, social media applications such as TikToks, uh, YouTube videos, etc. Anywhere where you're receiving information, intaking information is a form of the classroom. And so we're learning something about something, but it's also getting unidirectional again, where someone is choosing what is being published and how it's seen and when you're seeing it. And so that unbalanced power dynamic is being presented again over the web. So it's even harder to identify agendas of the teacher slash instructor slash publisher over the computer. That's why, to combat these modern culture of silence, we have citizen journalism, consciousness of algorithm personalization, confirmation bias and frame shifting, questioning what is being obstructed from you, questioning what is being shown to you and why, cultivating your voice. And all in all, just being critically aware of these things is really important. Moving on, I want to talk about Freer's legacy with these three articles that were published more recently. So, the first one is A Culture of Silence, Modes of Objectification, and the Silencing of Disabled Bodies. So, this stood out to me because we see Freer's impact outside of the educational space and are able to observe how his works affect sociology and activism. The second one is an article that interviewed various scholars and professors from around the world and expressed their admiration of Paulo Freire's work. So, as you can see, it's basically just a list of a bunch of universities, and the interviewees were from worked at these universities or taught about Paulo Freire in these universities. So, yes, and then the number three is an article that's titled Humanizing Pedagogy, Reinventing the Principles and Practice of Education as a Journey Toward Liberation. This one especially stood out to me because it questioned the academic space itself and the criteria that determines whether a work is considered academic or not. She questions who determines this criteria and who is left out by this criteria. And these three articles just scrape the surface of how Freire's work has impacted pedagogy on a global scale. But again, just some that stood out to me. So thank you for listening.